The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is one of the greatest games of all time, so it's kind of hard to live up to that, but I do have some games for you that should satisfy that craving. So let's start with a game that many also consider one of the greats. Okami is one of those masterpieces that everyone talks about, and it happens to have a lot in common with Ocarina of Time, probably not by coincidence. In Okami, you control Amaterasu through a world of watercolor, a really interesting art style that's a mix of action, platforming, and puzzle solving that should definitely appeal to fans of Ocarina of Time. There are all sorts of quests you can do and different activities that you can take part in if you choose, and a more linear main story. One of the more unique gameplay elements that will take you through it is the use of the celestial brush. With this brush, you need to draw, and by drawing different things, you can engage in combat, puzzles, and progress. Okami is a lot of fun, and it takes a similar formula to Ocarina of Time in a whole new direction. It has an HD version that is on all modern consoles and on PC. This one is a bit harder to find because there are multiple games with either a similar or the same name, and this is not the one that pops up when you type the name. Seed of Life is a upcoming old school style action adventure game that very clearly draws inspiration from Zelda. In this one you play as Hope, a wolf spirit that is trying to restore the natural order of things, and you are accompanied by a bird named Letty. You swap back and forth between those two characters to progress. It's a game that feels both nostalgic and new, which is honestly a great place to be, and you'll be solving puzzles and fighting machines. The same developer has a game in development called Temple Maker 64, which seems to be basically the Zelda version of Mario Maker. Could also be a lot of fun. Hasn't released yet, so keep an eye on both of these games. Neither one has a release date, but you can wishlist them right now on Steam, and I'll put a link to these in the description because, like I said, kind of hard to find. The next game on the list is Star Fox Adventures. You might not think that a Star Fox game would be similar to Zelda, but actually that's because it originally wasn't a Star Fox game. This was a game by Rare called Dinosaur Planet and was originally developed to be a late N64 release. They decided to throw Star Fox in there and swap to the GameCube at some point. It has a lot in common with Ocarina of Time in the exploration, and especially in the dungeons, with that classic Zelda-style formula of dungeons, enemies, puzzles, and new tools. Star Fox Adventures is a bit more linear, with less of the higher highs that you get in Ocarina of Time, but it's actually a very solid game, even if I kind of wish I could have seen what Dinosaur Planet was going to be when it was completed on N64. Star Fox Adventures is still trapped on GameCube, so you'll have to find a way to play it there. This one may be a bit of a weird pick, but I promise you'll love it if you give it a chance. Brave Fencer Musashi has a lot more in common with Ocarina of Time than most people realize. It has a lot of systems that will feel familiar, a night and day cycle that continuously runs, one that actually affects what NPCs are doing in the world, and the enemies and various things around that. A similar game loop that focuses on a central town hub, dungeons, and different areas to explore, and when you come back, you see how the town has changed and interact with various characters. It doesn't necessarily have the same kind of dungeons, but the areas that you go through have structures that work in a very similar way, with enemies to fight, some puzzles and objectives to complete, but it doesn't quite do the same sort of item collection and usage. Even so, I highly recommend that fans of Ocarina of Time try out Brave Fencer Musashi. It's a great game that deserves more love, and unfortunately it's still stuck only on the original PlayStation, even though it did come to PSN in Japan. And the next game I'd like to recommend has been called Zelda with more mature themes, Darksiders. Darksiders has you taking on the mantle of war, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. As you play through the game, you'll get all sorts of new powers, weapons, and you'll fight your way through all kinds of dungeons. Darksiders focuses more on combat than Ocarina of Time, with influences from various spectacle games like God of War, but it has a very similar structure. You'll go through a dungeon, unlock new items, solve puzzles, and then fight a boss, so it should feel very familiar, but at the same time, there are some big differences in themes and the implementation. So, if you're looking for Ocarina of Time with a bit more of a dark approach focused on combat, give Darksiders a shot. You can play it on all modern consoles and PC. And here's another one that people might not immediately think of. Beyond Good and Evil has a lot in common with Ocarina of Time. It has the overworld structure with various dungeons attached to that overworld, so you're exploring, unlocking new areas, and revisiting those areas whenever you unlock new things. The dungeons themselves have a pretty similar structure to Ocarina of Time, with puzzles, tools that unlock as you play, and bosses to defeat. When you're out of dungeons, there are plenty of side activities and things to explore. Beyond Good and Evil also shares a similar tone, with a nice balance between silly moments and more serious undertones. Of course, there are differences with a more linear narrative focus and less intricate dungeons in Beyond Good and Evil, but if you haven't played it yet and you love Ocarina of Time, you really need to try it out. And they pretty recently released the 20th anniversary edition, so it's available on all modern consoles and PC with a nice graphical upgrade. And of course, now that we're here at the end, I do have some nice bonus games as well. The first one is Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for the N64. There's a good amount of similarities here, all within the expansive world of Goemon, which, if you don't know, has an absolutely massive amount of games in that series, so if you enjoyed this one, maybe try out some of those as well. And the other game is Zelda The Missing Link. This is a ROM hack that was made by fans as a bridge between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. It's a short and surprisingly high-quality ROM hack in the Ocarina of Time engine, so give that a look. That's something that's pretty fun for Ocarina of Time fans. And there you go. 6 different games like Ocarina of Time. Hopefully you found something interesting in here. And if you have any other games you think people should check out, go post them in the comments. This is a community effort, so let's get as many good suggestions as we can. And for more game suggestions and videos about RPGs of all kinds, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.